For years, I've been recommending the popular to-do app Things as the best all-around task manager for most people. And there's now a new Things version for iPhone, iPad, and Mac to kind of go along with Apple's liquid glass aesthetic. But there are not that many new features, and there really haven't been that many new Things features for a while. So what is new? Do I still recommend Things as the best go-to all-around to-do app for most people to be the first one that you should try if you're looking for a new to-do app and you use Apple devices? And what do I think is next for Things? Well, let's discuss. Here I'm looking at Things for the Mac, which is slightly new. There's more rounded corners, there's a new app icon, and there's hints of liquid glass. If I just go over to my browser over here, and I'm in the Things blog by Cultured Code. Cultured Code is the company that makes Things. You can see that on iPhone, this is the new design. There is some liquid glass over here, right? But it's really a minor change. On iPad, the changes are a bit bigger because you can now use Windows in Things really nicely. More on that in a minute. But on the Mac, it looks like this. Things remains one of the absolute best designed apps, right? Even though the design hasn't changed that much for some years. There's still the amazing sort of default view here that's really the command center for your personal productivity. So I've got my tasks for today, a project that I'm working on today. I've got my tasks for this evening. I've got my calendar events. I can filter my tasks by tags. For example, I can click the work tag and then I'll only see my work tasks for today. I can undo that. There is the upcoming view, which is really helpful for seeing what's coming up in the next few days. There is the anytime view, which basically, if you're using other apps, you should try to build the equivalent of Things' anytime view because it's incredibly helpful for planning highly productive days. It shows me anything that's available for me to work on right now. And there's other cool features like the someday bucket over here, or even the tomorrow view, which a lot of people don't know about. By the way, if you didn't know there's such a thing as a tomorrow view in Things, I have a free Things cheat sheet that teaches you all about these hidden views and a bunch of other Things features. The link to that is in the video description. So this is still a really nicely designed app. But what is actually new? Well, the main thing that's new on the Mac is actually kind of a cool feature. If I click here, I open Control Center on my Mac. You may know this from your iPhone or iPad, and it's where you do things like turn on Do Not Disturb or change the volume. And you can click Edit Controls right here. And then what you can do is you can scroll down to Things. And what you can do is you can take a Things control and just put that over here. So this, if you click that, it just starts creating a new to-do. Or this control, if you put that here and you click it, it just opens a specific list in Things. But I don't find myself using this very much. But here's something that is legitimately useful. You can actually also drag these things into the menu bar of your Mac. So if I just click Done, now what I can do is I have this thing right here and just right-click it and go Edit List. Okay? And then what I can do is I can choose, for example, the deadlines list. This is another one of those hidden views that you really should learn about. And then if you click Filter by Tags, here I can choose my work tag. Now what is this going to do? I'll just click Done. Whether I have Things open or not, what's going to happen when I click this button, it actually opens a window in Things that shows me all of my deadlines filtered by work, so basically all of my upcoming work deadlines. That's incredibly helpful and cool. At the same time, this is quite a minor new feature. Another thing that's new on the Mac is I can, let me minimize things, open Spotlight. And the way to do that is with Command Space on your keyboard, right? And so I can now type Create To Do. And there's an integration between Things and Spotlight. And then I can hit Return or Enter. And then I can type something like Water the Plants. And if I now hit Return or Enter again, it runs a shortcut. You can see that by this thing right here. It's running a so-called shortcut in the Shortcuts app in the background. And now if I go back to Things and I just go back to my inbox, that task got added to the inbox. While this is cool, I really don't see much of a use for this for most people because you can instead use the much better and long-standing Things feature called Quick Entry with the keyboard shortcut Control Space. Of course, you can change these keyboard shortcuts. And then I can do, for example, move the couch back into position because I had a party, okay? What I can do is use the shortcut Command-Shift-M and assign that to the home area. I can hit Command-E to automatically assign this to this evening. So this is a much nicer experience than Spotlight. So I don't know why you would want to go through Spotlight. I can save this, and what I'm going to see is this task listed for this evening. Just back to the blog for a second, because I want to tell you about iPad, because there are some useful new iPad features. You now have windows and menus in things for iPad. So you can see right here on iPad, you've got some more of the liquid glass, some of the translucency, but you can now just have multiple things, windows next to each other really nicely, and you can make them whatever size you want them just by dragging, here with this thing on your iPad. And this is especially helpful, I guess, if you've got one of the really massive iPads, right? And then there's now also the file menu on iPad for things and for many other apps. For example, if I have this item selected, I can actually go in and see what I can do with it. And that is helpful, okay? That now exists on iPad as well. So what else is new? Well, you can have your widgets on iPhone and iPad and on the Mac in different styles. I don't find this personally that interesting. So what's next for things? Well, first we should ask ourselves, what have the things developers been working on in the past few years? Well, right here in Things for the Mac, you can't see this, but they've actually rewritten the code that powers this view and similar views, right, for things on the Mac. And that has allowed features that they introduced in the past few years, like increasing or decreasing the thing's text size. So the way you do that is you just head over right here to General, and you can just change the text size and things. So, that's useful, but again, kind of par for the course. But that was a big effort, apparently, to rewrite their code to be able to do such things. And another thing that the developers really spend a lot of time working on is the so-called Things Cloud. That is the synchronization server. And to be fair, Things has always synced extremely quickly between my iPhone, my iPad, my Mac Studio, my MacBook Pro, and even my Apple Watch. The synchronization is very fast and reliable, and that's part of the reason why Things has such low friction, right? Why it's such a joy to use. And of course, the more you enjoy using your To-Do app, the more you are likely to keep using it and get the benefits from it. Because in the end, you don't get points for using a To-Do app, right? In the end, you get points for being happier and being more on top of your stuff. But apparently, right, the Things Cloud really needed a big rewrite on the back end. And I think they worked on it for like more than a year. And you can go into a lot of detail about how this worked, how they did that, and, it's great that they care so much and that they work on things with craftsmanship, right? That's the way that they say it. If you just sort of scroll to the bottom of this blog post, here's what they say. Things is now ready for the future. It gives us a solid foundation to build on for the next decade and beyond. Software you can rely on every day for years to come. This tells me that Things is not going anywhere, that they are committed to adding new features in the coming years. Of course, you should ask yourself, does Things have the features that you need it to have right now if you want to use it? And if it doesn't, maybe you need to use a different app right now that does have the features that you need, okay? And let me tell you about 3 features that I think are missing from Things that I'd really like to see and that I hope they add soon. So back to Things on the Mac right here. Now, the first one is actually, if I just go to my admin and finances area, and by the way, so the area system in Things is great, right? Areas that have to-dos directly in them and projects in them, and you really should learn how to use all these features in Things. And if you want to build a whole workflow around Things, download my free Things cheat sheet, but also check out my full Things video course. The link to that is also in the video description. But here's one of, the first of these 3 sort of missing features I want to tell you about. I need to withdraw some cash from the ATM just to have cash to pay my cleaner, right, who comes to clean my apartment. Now, what I can do in Things is I can schedule that for today, and I can actually click Add Reminder, and then I can say, well, I want a reminder for that at 2 p.m. today. And then I can click Done, and now I'll get a push notification at 2 p.m. today. But I don't want that because the ATM is at the grocery store. I don't know what time I'm next going to be at the grocery store, but what I want to do is set a location-based reminder. So that the next time I find myself at the grocery store, bing, I get the notification on my watch, on my iPhone that says, withdraw cash from the ATM, Peter. That's what I want to see. But that doesn't exist yet in things. Now, here's another one. Every 3 months, I do a quarterly review. And so that's a project, and I just reflect on what did I do last quarter. I update my list of goals. I make sure I have action items for each of my goals, and then I decide what am I going to work on in the next 3 months and what am I not? And doing this really high level of prioritization is actually super helpful, because then on a day-to-day basis, I'm not feeling guilty that I'm not working on something because I already decided this is not my priority for this quarter, right? Anyway, I've got that set up as a repeating project in things. It repeats every 3 months on the first day. So the next one is October 1st. But what if I want to do this before October 1st? I can't go ahead and complete it ahead of time. So I had to create a separate manual version of this that I can complete ahead of time. So the inability to complete repeating to-dos ahead of time is something I'd like to see, or is a problem in things, is something I'd like to see them fix. And they actually said more than a year ago that they were working on changing how repetition things work in things. But, that hasn't happened yet. And then here's another one, the third feature that I really think they should add. I'm going on a skydiving trip. The skydiving drop zone is on an airfield. There's access instructions. I got a PDF that I need to review, and I have a to-do for that to review this PDF, these instructions, but I can't attach the PDF to my to-do. So in things, you can add notes to a to-do, but you can't attach any files, and that's such a shame, and I really hope that they use their new amazing sync server to build this feature soon. So I think that the fact that they spent years working on so much back-end stuff, improving things, shows that the developers and designers over at Cultured Code are committed to keep things around for a long time, right? And also to build new features. But other apps, for example, like Todoist, have added lots of new features lately. And even an app like OmniFocus hasn't had many new features for years. They were doing a lot of back-end work too. And now all of a sudden, they're using the fact that they improved lots of stuff on the back end to make it easier to add new features, and they are adding new features. So I hope that that's the next phase for things. But for now, I still think that for most people, assuming you're using Apple devices, Things is the first to-do app you should try if you can live with the fact that you can't set location-based reminders or attach files to your to-dos. However, there are so many features in Things that are not visible on the surface, okay? And it's also really important that you do things like using projects correctly in Things. I see a lot of people using projects the wrong way. So if you want to learn how to do that stuff, how to master Things and get organized with Things, I highly recommend that you first download my free Things cheat sheet and then enroll in my full Things video course. Again, the links to those are in the description of the video. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.